Hey, everybody. Before we get you into this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey, we want to give a big shout out to our title sponsor, NHL Sense Arena, who were recently given access to the Meta Store. That has been something they have been trying to achieve for a long time. And right now, in your VR headset, if you go to the Meta Store, guess what's there? NHL Sense Arena. You no longer have to go to their website to download the game. We've said it many times on this show. We love what Sense Arena is able to provide for you, the listener, to your young hockey player in a VR way to experience the game like never before. And as you can imagine, now that they're on the Meta Store, things have changed a little bit. We are now offering 10% off an annual plan of NHL Sense Arena when you use the code, and you might want to write this one down, HNS-72A36D. Leave it to Facebook for an ad like that, HNS-72A36D, and that'll get you 10% off your annual plan of NHL Sense Arena on the Meta Store. But without any further ado, let's dive into this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey right now. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another episode of Our Kids Play Goalie, powered by NHL Sense Arena. I'm Elias with Mike Bonelli. Our guest today is the goaltending coach for Boston University and has an amazing resume that includes coaching with the Boston Bruins, Arizona Coyotes, and Toronto Maple Leafs, along with a successful 6 years in the Dell, winning the German championship in 2015. In addition to being an established authority on goaltending, he is also a trailblazer in the space, having created Stop It Goaltending, where he works with over 1,000 goalies annually, which has resulted in over 25 NHL draft picks, and also through his work with Sense Arena as the Director of Goaltending Development. He has authored 2 top-selling books, Hockey Goaltending and How to Be a Goalie Parent, but you may ultimately recognize his name because his son, Joey Daccord, is the starting goaltender for the Seattle Kraken. His kid plays hockey. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Brian Daccord to the show today. Brian, welcome to Our Kids Play Hockey.
Thanks so much. And recently I have become Joey Daccord's dad. He is no longer my kid.
There you go. I think that's the dream of a lot of the parents on the show here today. Just wonderful to see Joey flourish in the NHL, especially last season. And obviously, not that it was his coming of age here, but the Winter Classic last year stands out for me, obviously, is one of the big times that he played. But we're going to get to him and you as a dad. But I want to start with you. You know, every goaltender has a story about how they were placed between the pipes. Were you voluntold? Did you naturally flock to that position? How did you get so involved in the goaltending realm?
Well, I'm going to age myself a little bit. I grew up in Montreal, and we had a channel 22, and they used to show the Bruins matinee games on Sundays. And I fell in love with Jerry Cheevers and his mask. And then once again, dating myself, our rink was outside. So we played outdoors, and my brother was a goalie, and finally he got tired of freezing his butt off. And so we had a set of equipment right there, and I begged my dad to let me play, and he let me play. And I grew up in Montreal there, and I played junior. I came to the States. I played at Merrimack College and went over. I played 7 years in Switzerland in the National A-League there. Came back, goalie coach of the Bruins, goalie scout for Maple Leafs, director of goaltending for the Coyotes, and running Stop It Goaltending as well. So that's kind of how I got to this point. And we like to say, my wife and I, Daniela, we like to say we breed goaltenders. We have 2 ourselves. And Alex just finished playing recently at St. Anselm's College at the Division III level.
That's amazing. And again, it's ingrained in the family. It started early. When you said Cheevers, you're talking about the mask with the stitches and stuff
absolutely.
like that. So
Absolutely.
for the younger parents in the audience, look up Gary Cheevers' mask. All right, because
or don't if you
or
don't.
or don't. But it really creative mask with a lot of stitches on it.
Well, I freak the kids out when I show them pictures of when I was playing for the kid, because I had a mask on. I had the Jacques Plante mask. There was no eye protection. I mean, there were 2 holes out, and if you were going to get hit with a stick, you were going to get hit with a stick. And you know, it was interesting when I finished playing. Right near the end of my career, I had a very short period. I had a coach by the name of Marco Baron, and he had played for the Bruins. He happened to be in Switzerland, came out and helped us a little bit. And just in the few times that he helped, I learned so much. And I had these great coaches that would really help me. But at that time, like your goalie coach, you'd see him once a month or something. Like there wasn't that consistent support. So when I was done, my goal was to formalize a way to train goaltenders. That was, I felt like I could have used so much more as a goaltender myself. And then, so I'm always thinking about what can I provide goalies? And that's where we get into the Stop It Goaltending U app and the SIG Game Day app that does evaluations for goaltenders and the books. I've written 5 books now. So I just keep on trying to provide resources for our goaltenders and help them. And even, you talk about Joey and you get in the books and we're flying back from Joey's first game. He played his first game in the NHL. And we're flying back from the game. And I looked at Danielle and I go, do you know how many decisions? I'm getting chills saying this right now. Do you know how many decisions we had to get right to get to this point? And I said, I eat, sleep, and breathe goaltending. I am as deep in the goaltending world as anybody. And it was still hard. And all the pressure of camps and teams and tournaments and tryouts and where to go and junior and stay in preps, all the decisions. And that's why I wrote How to Be a Goalie Parent, because I wanted to help parents navigate through all those decisions and those issues that come up as a goalie parent. And that's it's an amazing book. I actually sell 2 or 3 a day. It just keeps on going. And that's why I do what I do. I just try to give back and try to provide coaches, parents, and the goalies the resources to help them.
It's funny, Brian, right? Like, I'm sure like when you're writing it too, it's helping you and your family, right? When we find out on this show, like we'll be doing a podcast and I'll get off on a Monday and I'll sit there and be like, oh geez, I gotta actually reflect on that and redo that. Or I need to fix that or tweak that in my own life as a hockey parent, so I think it's great. It's a great way to, almost journal, your own experience to help other people, but it's really helping you too. And I'm sure your kids have appreciated that because you can reflect on, kind of where you're at in the moment and then pivot and try to make the right decisions. And I think that, for you to say that, think about all these parents. I just did a couple of Pee Wee Quebec tryouts over the past couple of weekends in various areas. And watching the goalie parents and the pacing and the uncertainty and the, and then at the end of the day, it's like, well, listen, you're all good. I mean, you're all good. Every one of them is good. And you're just like, it's just, it's chance and it's timing and it's opportunity, being in the right place at the right time. It's not only about, talent, right?
Without a doubt. And we're always growing. We're growing as coaches. We're growing as parents as well. And it was funny. I did, after the Winter Classic, I did an interview on the NHL Network with Joey, and it was a magical moment. It was like being in a Disney World movie, right? It was insane. And we're doing the interview and that's what I talked about. I talked about, as a parent, sure, there's a financial aspect to having your kids play hockey, but we can live with the fact, hey, maybe we did a tournament we shouldn't have, and we spent the $300 and so on and so forth. But, what really drives the parents is making the right decisions and giving our kids a chance to do what they love to do. And that's what we're trying to do as parents all the time. And so the landscape keeps on changing in hockey. So you're always learning and you're always growing.
Brian, we say a lot on this show that there is no one path for any professional, anything really, not just hockey. You've mentioned a few times the decision-making aspect of this. And look, my son's a young goaltender. He's 10 years old. I've fallen in the world of, I will be buying your book. But the question I have is, maybe you can run through some of those decisions that you've had to make as a family for the audience, just to give an idea, and kind of with the disclaimer, again, these are decisions your family had to make. Sure. It might not be decisions every family has to make.
Sure. So I have a pretty strong opinion about development, and let's go back a little bit. My son Joey was really fortunate. He played as a youth. He played club hockey, select hockey as a goalie, and he played for his town as a player. And he played as a player for the town right through middle school. So right up until freshman year of high school, he was playing both. And he always had a goalie partner. He was never the one goalie. And, you can argue there's a lot of good things about being the only goalie, but there's also a lot of good things about having a goalie partner and splitting the games. So that was kind of his thing. And when it comes to decisions, you're always forced, whether it's 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old, you're always forced with the decision of, where to play, what team to try out for, and so on and so forth. And I've always had a motto. I've always chosen environment over level. And that's kind of my go-to. And Joey played up 1 year. That was probably his least fun year. He was playing with older kids. It was a different locker room dynamic. He wasn't ready socially to be in that locker room. He was the youngest kid in the room, and he didn't have as much fun. And goaltending, especially at the youngest levels, it's about driving passion for the game. It's hard. It's hard to move up the ranks. It's hard to play for a high school team, a prep school team, where everybody's counting on you. And if you play bad, you feel like you let everybody down, or you got embarrassed, or, there's a lot of resiliency that has to go with goaltending. You absolutely positively have to develop that passion while you're younger, because when it hits, when Stuart Skinner goes on that bad streak to start the season, that takes resiliency to climb yourself out of that. When he gets benched in the playoffs for 2 games, so if you don't have that passion and you don't have that love that you developed as a kid, you're done. So let's go back to environment over level.
I love that statement.
Joey Daccord, in our area, we're in New England, Boston, and the best league is the EHF. That's where the best players play. Joey Daccord has 1 EHF game played. He never played EHF. He played that next level down. And once again, but it was a good team. He saw lots of shots. It was a great environment. He loved the game. And he kept on getting better. You don't have to, as a goaltender, you don't have to play at the highest level, but you have to be at a competitive level. So you can't just, play at the lowest level and think that one day you're going to get there. You have to be challenged. You have to be in a competitive environment. You have to play. And it's not about playing on the best team in the best league. It's about getting experience, getting shots, and being in the right environment. So he goes right through youth hockey, and then it comes in the end of the youth hockey stage, and it's, well, what are you going to do here? You want to be a player or a goalie? And we had this discussion, and he said, I really love playing forward, but I really think I'm good at goalie. And if I want to make it to the NHL, I want to be I'm going to be a goalie. So that was kind of like the turning point.
Yeah, not at 8, by the way, right, Brian? This is 8 years old.
No,
this is 14.
He was still doing both.
Yeah.
He was still doing both.
Right. I mean, it's amazing, right?
And obviously he played at the select level as a goalie. He played at a higher level as a goalie.
Right.
So then it was, okay, 9th grade, what do you do? Well, here prep school is the big thing, right? Play prep school. Now you're getting more into the academies, and the clubs are getting better and better at the 14U and 16U and so on and so forth. But at that time, it was really about going to prep school. And Joey played 2 years of public high school hockey at the Division II level for North Andover High School.
Yeah.
And so when he went to Cushing Academy after North Andover, and that was it was, when I talked to the coach, it was like, okay, he's going to stay here until he's ready to leave at the high school level. We'll work on that mutually. So it was a mutual understanding. And then when it came down to, okay, he had done really well, and he went to prep school. And in prep school, he repeated his sophomore year. Okay, so he reclassed. When he played his first game at Cushing Academy, which is a powerhouse, the highest level he had ever played, when he played his first game at Cushing Academy, he, as a sophomore, he had 48 games played at the high school level before he played his first game at prep school. That's putting someone in a position to succeed. And I tell goalie parents this all the time. Take the stairs, don't take the elevator. If you take the elevator, you go up too fast, you're going to miss all these experiences and all this development. Just stay at a good competitive level. Just keep getting better. And it'll come. So he did the prep school, and he was there for his sophomore year and junior year. and he was ranked 14th for the NHL draft.
Wow.
And he didn't get drafted. So he was not drafted his first year of the draft. And
Right.
that's quite something. So he doesn't get drafted, and then he goes out to mass player development to see who's going to get selected for USA Hockey. He gets to the final 2. He doesn't get selected. He doesn't make it. So now 14th round pick, doesn't get picked. 14th round ranked for the draft, doesn't get picked for the goalies. Doesn't get selected for the USA Hockey development camp. Okay. Oh, career's over, right? Everybody thinks you have to have these things. You have to have these things. But they were tremendous experiences because he got through them. And we have a saying, every time something rough happens and he faces resiliency, he looks at his hand and goes, hey, Dad, more calluses on these hands. And the point is that the more you go through, the tougher you get, the more that you can get through. So it was really funny. I'll tell you this story. So he had gone the 2 years at Cushing, and he had, going into senior year, but you have all the junior teams that are saying, hey, go junior, you got to move past, you got to move past prep school. You weren't drafted, all this kind of stuff. And then it was the big decision. Do you go junior or do you go back to prep school? And for us, it was really funny because we had one of the people at Cushing, and they had talked to Joey about coming back. And they were like, hey, you should play for this split season team at the beginning of the year. And this is what you do at prep school. You play for a split season team before you play the prep school season. And you shouldn't play soccer. Now, Joey was the captain of the soccer team. He was captain of the tennis team, captain of the soccer team, captain of the hockey team. So he was a tri-captain. And they were pushing hard for him not to play soccer. And eventually, this was a funny phone call. Eventually, I said, you know what? You're right. He should just focus on hockey next year. I'm going to send him out to Minnesota to play for the Wilderness in the Null. And they were like, whoa, wait a
minute. Yeah. You've made my choice. You're making me make my choice. Thank you.
Wait a minute. No, he can play soccer. He can come back. So it was funny. He had no scholarships. He had nothing. And he went back for his senior year, and he ended up ranked 10th. He got a full scholarship to Arizona State University, and he was drafted in the 7th round of the NHL.
Wow.
But hey, could you imagine as a parent, that decision? You got so many people, you got to go junior, and you've got the people at the school saying, well, you got to give up soccer, someone at the school, you got to give up all these things coming at you. And then you just got to make a decision. Once again, environment. He loved playing soccer. He loved the school. It was a great fit. And it was like, hey, you know what? You didn't get it done last year. You're 14th. You didn't get a scholarship. Go back, go get it, go earn it, right at the level, master the level that you're at. And then we'll worry about moving on after that.
Yeah. And I think goaltenders too, have, not that it's an advantage, disadvantage. It's just a different, piece of where you are in development, because I think the environment, I was listening to like Hockey Prospects Radio over the weekend, and, this highly touted goaltender coming in that nobody's really seen on the radar because he has like a 7.3 goals against average or something like that. Mm-hmm. But he's playing on the worst team in the league. He's got like 56 shots on net. He's just he's in a great environment. Like he's like, sound goaltender, has all the, the mental, think about this kid. He keeps going in the net, right? He's not quitting. So I think it's just about that,
Well, are you talking about Mikhail Egorov?
Oh, I don't know.
Omaha?
Yeah, maybe it's the
because he's played on arguably one of the worst teams in the USHL, was getting bombarded every night, but we actually committed him out of Omaha. But he's ranked for number 1 in on Central's list. So it could have been him, but
that's because you're seeing him like that's the eyeball test, right? It's not like
he's a great example, because it's not about being on the best team. And he wasn't, the highly touted guy coming in and so on and so forth. It's about taking the stairs. It's about mastering the level that you're at before you move on. And, if you think about it, if people make mistakes when they're in a rush, right? When you're in a rush to do something, or you're rushed to get out of the house, oh, you forgot something you were supposed to bring. So if you think about if you think we're not going to rush, we're going to get what we need done at the level we're at, and then we're going to move on. That's really the development path. Now for your coaches that are out there, I don't agree with that from a player standpoint. From a player standpoint, I think it's really important to play at the highest level you can. It's not a necessity for goaltenders. And of course, if you're a great goaltender playing in a great league and on a great team, fine, that's great. We're not saying don't play for that team. I'm not saying that at all. But
right.
But if you're not, don't worry about it. You're fine.
Well, I think that's where the anxiety comes in, because a parent now has to deal with a kid and a coach and other parents, because the last line of defense is the fact that, okay, I'm letting my child go through this process. And yes, there's getting 6 goals against them. The team's losing. My son is getting better. He's getting better and better and better. But can just talk a little bit about how you would approach, well, any level, but really the youth hockey level, on a kid that plays on a lesser team, is a better goalie, is trying to take the stairs. Mentally, how do they talk themselves into being like, listen, I am good. I am doing my job. I'm accomplishing what I need to accomplish as a goaltender. I can't do anything about the 6D in front of me and the 15 forwards. I can't score goals. I can't dump the puck out. Just talk a little bit about what a parent can do to kind of talk that player up and make sure they're staying in a good mental place to say, because it is a long listen to your journey. Your son's journey went from not even knowing if he was going to be a goalie at 14 to playing in the NHL. So
and this year he was the 9-year overnight success. It drafted 9 years ago. This year overnight.
We knew it all
the time.
We knew it all the time. We knew
it overnight success. No, 9 years of grinding it out. From the time
I think at the youth level, and especially where we are, right in New England and the Northeast, it's even a bigger pressure cooker, I think, because there's you could easily just hop and go across the street and go to another program and be happy.
So here's the first thing I tell you, Mike. The first thing I tell you is to express gratitude for being in the situation where you are getting shots. So in the goalie world, this is what it comes down to. If you do your research and you analyze the goalies that make it and probability of goalies making it. If I said to you, what's the most important stat in goaltending? Some people would go, oh, it's wins. Goalie that wins, that's the most important stat. Someone will say, oh no, it's save percentage over goals against average, and so on and so forth. And you look at stats, and if you study it, you realize, if you look back in time, stats mean nothing. There's only one stat in goaltending that has any relevance in terms of predicting success, and that's games played. It's the only stat. You got so many goalies that have made it that the commonality is that they've played a lot of games. Going back to Stuart Skinner, look at Stuart Skinner's path. Look how many games he played in major junior. Look how many games in the minors he's played. So you take a look at the being grateful for getting the experience, getting those shots, being able to not be on a team where you go to a game and there's 10 shots, because every shot is a chance to get better. And there's a big difference. Let's go into this a little bit in terms of being grateful for being on a team that's not that good. Your shot in practice, maybe you're on a better team and you're seeing better shots in practice, which is great. But those shots in practice have no consequence. Mm-hmm. There's a difference between reading a release and reading a play in a game with real consequences than it is in practice. And I say, so let's say we went over and played some golf, right? And we go to Andover Country Club down the road here. We'd go there, and the three of us, we'd go to the tee box and the starters there, and you'd have guys coming off the 18th. You'd have the next group behind us, and you got people on the patio and in the bar watching you take your first tee shot. Okay? That's one type of experience. There's consequences there. Like, all of a sudden, you got 15, 20 people watching you take your first swing of the day. Then you go through the first hole, you go to the second hole, you go up around the trees. Now it's just the three of us. And now we're hitting the ball. It's a completely different experience. So you want to get shots with consequences. Okay. So that's one thing. Now, in terms of tricks and tips for goalies that play on weaker teams, you have to do things to give them a chance to succeed. So first off, stop playing games. Games are 3 periods long. Break that game up until 3 games. There are 3 distinct games. First period, that's 1 game. So now you have, let's say Lee's the coach and Mike, you have a son and he plays his first period. He goes over and Lee goes, okay, how do we do? Yeah, coach, we lost 2-0. All right. Hey, 2-0. Okay, look, new game coming up. Second period, 0-0. Let's see how we do. Come over. Coach, 1-1. All right, fantastic. We tied the game. Let's go win this third game. Let's go. The third. So now you go, hey, we won 1-0. We won 2-1. So now you get some wins. So you got to find some ways to get some wins. And what are you trying to accomplish? And that's one little trick to give goalies the opportunity to get some wins. And then, we had Corey Schneider for years and years. And with Corey, he always broke the game up into 5-minute segments. And it was 5 minutes at even NHL. 5-minute segments. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you a story. This is great for the parents to understand, your goalie parents to understand. So I remember, Richard Schneider, awesome guy. I remember having a conversation with Corey's dad. And it was about a half-hour conversation. And it was about the team and the coach and what was going on and everything like that. And I put down the phone. And I immediately got another call. And it was from the goalie parent of a peewee. Okay. I literally had the exact same conversation.
Right.
Nothing changes from the time you're 10 to the time you're 30. There's some zeros involved and everything like that, but nothing really changes. You're talking about the same stuff. And I always tell parents, it's so funny. They're like, geez, my goalie's 12, 14. Geez, the stress, it's been a grind. I'm like, you're just getting started. and it never changes. It's always the same stuff. So it's just, obviously it's a little magnified because of the dollars, but
but not in their mind, right? And not in their mind.
No, it's the same. You're dealing with the same issues. Yeah.
Right. In their mind, it's like the money, like, when you get to a certain level of the NHL, I mean, everybody says it's work, right? But it's still a game. And it's still, you have to have fun and you have to break those things down. You have to find a way, how can I make this enjoyable for myself and not, and not just being a pressure cooker all the time. And I feel my son plays goalie, but in lacrosse, right? So I had to get over this whole feeling that I'm like, oh my God, 8 goals against. This is horrible. Like, that's a really great game. I had a great game.
He got a chance. He got a chance to come back after 8 goals. And build resilience.
But it's just a hard thing, like mentality wise, when most games are like 18-17 or something like that, right? You don't get like a 2-1 lacrosse game, but I think it's but you look as a parent, and the one thing that talking to Lee and being on these Our Kids Play Goalie podcasts and listening to different goaltenders and coaches, I'm able to understand even better as a hockey coach that you got to set aside. Be like, listen, sometimes when you talk to your goaltenders, you do have to be a little selfish. And be like, listen, you can't do anything about the rest of the bench. Like, you need to break your game down into what you can control and what you can muster mentally. Like, there's not a lot you can do about the emotional piece that's happening on the bench, right? Because, I mean, it's almost like the way I look at it a lot when I watch a game, and there's a skirmish in the crease. Most of the time, the goalies get up and they skate to the corner. And they kind of like, well, that's not my problem. Like, I started it, but I'm not. Yeah, you guys got to take care of this behind me. But I think it's just a way for them to get out of there and get into a different mindset and be like, I'm which I think is a good thing. They're extracted from the team, they're extracted from that moment of the game because they don't have a chance to go reset on the bench. Like, they got to find a way to reset in the time of an actual game going on.
But I love what you said when I talk to my goalies. So we have goalies, 8 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, whatever. They go to the rink. They get dressed. They go play a game. They get undressed. They leave the rink. They had no communication with an adult. Literally. Coach hasn't said a thing to them. and so the fact that you just said, like, when you talk to your goalies, I'm like, Yes. The coach talking to the goalies. And like the worst thing you can try to do is talk goalie lingo, because most kids are getting training at a young age, that they're getting all the terminology. Then you start trying to throw some terms out and they're going to look at you like, no.
Yeah.
But if you talk to them in English, then that's good. But it's just the communication part. But you got to understand, you got to keep one number in your head. Okay. The number is the average age of a college Division I commit. Do you guys know what that is? It's 19.6.
I was going to say 20.
19.6 years of age is the average commit for a goalie. So like these games, you're just getting better. Why are you playing these games? To have fun and get better. And guess what? If you got 40 shots in that game and that other goalie got 12, guess what? You got 28 more chances to get better than that guy. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. Brian, I love what you're saying. I'll tell you something funny. I've for whatever reason, throughout my entire time playing and coaching, I have always gotten along with goaltenders. And I was a center. I never played goalie ever, but I just always, maybe there's a little goalie in me. And one of the things that's happening now that I can't quite explain is that when we get period breaks, Mike, I don't even know if you know this, whatever age I'm coaching, the goaltender tends to come to me. and it's I don't take it lightly, right? They're coming to me for whatever reason. But when I talk to them, the conversations range from, usually I ask, how you feeling? I let them talk to me. Sometimes we talk about hockey. Sometimes we talk about something else. The idea is I'm just trying to talk to them to get them to wherever they need to be mentally to feel better to get back in the net. Mm-hmm. And I remember recently I was coaching a game. We were down, and he came to me a little bit down. And I said, how you feeling? And it was just what you just said. He's like, oh, man, they're peppering me. I said, how exciting. That was the words I used. How exciting.
Awesome.
That you're getting all these shots. So, yeah, I think that one of the reasons we made this show is exactly for what you said. There should be no player on a team that comes in and has no interaction with an adult goalie or skater, right? Because, I mean, what are you coaching for if you're not doing that? So one of the questions I wanted to ask you, and you've been dropping a lot of gold on here about the environment.
I'm going to stop you right there. Can you hold that question, though?
Yeah, please go.
So I'm gonna tell you when we talk about this, that's why, sorry, USA Hockey or Hockey Canada, whatever, but goalie parents have to car coach.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. They do, because the kids don't get anything. Most of almost every youth kid shows up at practice. There's not a goalie guy there. Right. So they go to practice. They're not getting any feedback. So I think it's up to us as goalie parents to educate ourselves so that we're able to understand how to talk to our kids. Right. How do you talk to them before a game? How do you talk to them after a game? I think that's important, because they're just not getting that. And then if they're not, then it's not coming out of them too, because it's important, right? Like that in between period stuff. Yeah. That stuff is gold. I'm going to tell you this, and I take this from Joey, right? He's got a great mindset. I'm so jealous of him. I wish I had his mindset when I played. But he has this thing. He goes, you know what? You can't stop a puck when no one's shooting at you. And in between periods, guess what? No one's shooting at you. The night before a game, no one's shooting at you. The morning of a game, no one's shooting at you. Like, why worry about the game? You can't stop a puck when no one's shooting at you. And it's a great way to look at it, right? Because so many kids, they bring the game home with them.
Yeah.
Why are you down? No one's shooting at you. Like, why worry about it? You can't do anything about it while no one's shooting at you. So it's a great little mindset. The other thing, it just come to mind, I got to get this out because I think it's so important. You've probably talked to your son about staying at the same level, being even keel, not getting too high and too low, right?
For sure.
So I've always, a goalie can't get too high or too low. And whenever I start on something towards that line, Joey tells me to shut my mouth. He hates when I say that. He goes, you know what, Dad? He goes, it is so hard sometimes being a goalie. When things go right, I'm going to enjoy it.
Right.
So now when you watch if Joey gets like first star of the game, he gets out on the ice, he hugs the mascot, he throws his fish, he gets the crowd. Like, he has a ball.
Right. Show some emotion. You know, I don't
why
mind
should
that.
Yeah. Why should I not get up and high when things are
right?
Because I'm going to be low when it gets hard. It sucks. It's tough. So I've kind of changed my view on it, saying, yeah, goalies, have some fun, enjoy it. You're right.
This is what I'll tell
let's
you.
Go.
I think it's about defining what is get too high or too low mean. Because the way I describe this with my son dances between stoppages. All right.
Okay.
And I've never told him to stop because I think it's the coolest thing in the world. He's enjoying the game.
Yeah.
So while I appreciate what you said 100%, and I agree with you, I think when I say to him or any of the players, don't get too high or too low, it's be present. If you're feeling good, live in that moment. All right. But you have to have the ability to control the emotion so it doesn't control you. There is a point that if you get too excited and then you transfer that to a cocky state of mind of, okay, now we're going to win.
That's different.
That to me that's too high. Yeah. Right.
Well, listen,
but I want you to feel it. Same thing with pain though. I want you to feel the pain because you got to live in that too. But don't allow that to control you. Go ahead,
Mike, all our players, right? We talked to all our players about that. Like, I'm in New York, right? So the Rangers go down by a goal. It's up. Season's over. Pack it in. It's over. Just
it's
pack
exactly
it in.
What Ranger fans. That's it. We're done.
It's all done. Time. Or we score. The team scores a goal, and you hear the kids. I hear the kids down the hall, yelling and screaming. Oh, that's it. We're going all the way. This is going to be it. I'm like, there's a long time in the game. And I think that's like, so Brian, I loved, we say that to anybody, right? Goalies, forwards, defensemen, like you see it at your level and you certainly see it at the pro level all the time where like you score a goal with 2 minutes left and the adulation of the score. And then they give up a goal like 5 seconds later. And you're like, and then it just defeats you. But, and that's where I kind of feel you got to be even. But at the end of a game, when you're like, we had one goalie who's actually doing really well now. And at the beginning, he started playing for me. And after we would score, I was like taken aback by he'd be at our bench, like screaming and patting the guys and giving high fives. And he's in the game. And I had never seen that at the youth level before with a goalie, like coming all the way down to the bench and giving everybody a high five on the bench. And at first I was like, just get in the goddamn net. Like, what are you doing over here? And then I was just like, I love it because the kids got so much energy out of it. They were like, okay, this is our leader. Like, this kid.
I think, Mike, did he lose focus after that? Right.
I think it was more focused. And I think the guys wanted to play for him even harder. Right. Because they saw that his emotion and his energy and his passion were there. And, but at the same time, he didn't go and hide into the net when he gave up a goal and sulked in the corner.
And to bring this back to Brian, to you,
like, let's go.
I gotta say something about the glove taps there.
Yeah.
All right. So when Joey went pro, so in college, right, most college goalies after a goal will skate by the bench if it's first or third period, will skate to the bench and get in the line, the glove line, right? And then, but in the NHL and pro, like that was kind of frowned on a little bit. Like, you don't do that. And then Joey's doing it, and I'm sitting there going, okay. And then we were talking about it. He's like, hey, I'm part of the I want to Sully with the team.
Right.
So after a goal, he goes and he gets in the glove line and he goes high five, and then he goes back to the net. And I'm like, awesome. I love that. Sick. I think it's sick.
And what I remember about Joey too is I remember after the Winter Classic, he was doing like a post-game press conference, and you just got the impression this guy is enjoying it. He just loves it. Like, and he was not monotone in that press conference. He had a good time. And you could not feel what he was feeling, right? Just the adulation and the fun. Maybe if you're a Vegas fan, but just the point is that, that's him. That's authentically him. And I don't think he's losing focus in any way. I think, like Mike said, it probably enhances it. So I think that's a delicate balance. But I do agree with you about not putting them in a little cage and saying, hey, don't think. Right? To me, that's one of the big things in youth hockey that I have a problem with is we don't think, don't cry, don't yell, don't. No. You got to let them feel, because that emotion is actually part of the game. And their ability to control that emotion as they get older, or at least understand it, can put them forth. I mean, look, let's go back 20 years when Ovechkin started and he would celebrate every goal. People are like, oh, this guy's a showboat. This guy's a show. Man, that was fun. All right. And he still does.
He has so much passion.
He does.
He loved it. He enjoyed it. Like, let's go.
Who didn't like that, right? Yeah. Now, I do want to bring this back to a question for the audience here, right? We talked about how you said it. Goaltenders might go the whole game not talking to anybody. What are some of the changes we can make at practices, maybe at games, to both incorporate youth goaltenders into the practice more? Like, thinking about what coaches do or don't know, right? And then also, why is that important? Because, another reason we made this show is because there's a huge detriment at the youth level of, hey, just get in the net and make saves. I have seen some organizations bring in third-party help with goaltending. My organization has done that. I'm very thankful for that.
But lucky.
We are, and I don't take that for granted. You talked about environment over level. I'm keeping him at this level in this environment because of exactly what you're talking about. He's enjoying it. He's loving it. He's also very young. But with that said, right, keeping it at the kind of the youth level right now, what is your advice to coaches when they're planning the practices, when they're creating their practices or their vision for the season, to incorporate goaltending into that more?
All right, so I'll go off on this a little bit. Now, here we go. First off, there should be no dead time for goalies in practice. Okay, meaning if there's a lull in practice, goalies should be skating. And it's up to the goalies. Like on our Stop It Goaltending U app, we have all these goalie skating drills that the goalies can look up, and they'll have a million drills to do. So if you think about it, right? If Mike's got a 10-year-old and you got a 10-year-old, and every time you go on the ice, when there's dead time in practice, before, after, during explanations or coaching, whatever, and he goes in his crease and does skating. 2 minutes here, 5 minutes there. Yeah. So now maybe it's 15, 20 minutes a week. 20 minutes a week, 3 practices a week, right? That starts to add up over, and right. you think about you both have kids, and one of them is taking advantage of all that dead ice, and one's not. Exponentially, the improvement is going to be much better in the goalie. That's so. I think that coaches, look, when you go up to the board and explain a drill, should the goalie be paying attention? Absolutely. Are they? Absolutely not. They're gonna be looking at the boards.
So does the drill end within those red lines? Yes.
Where's the shot? That's what they're gonna say. They're gonna say, "Where's the shot?" So you know what? Instead of them going around waiting, and do your skating drills, pass the puck, do something with an assistant coach. Like take advantage of that time. I think there's so much dead time. Andrew Raycroft works with me. We talk about it all the time. It's about maximizing those minutes on the ice.
Right.
So I think that's a big important one.
I'm writing that down.
The other thing that I believe strongly about is that we're going down just way too much in practice. Okay. A goalie knows how to make a butterfly save. The goalie does not have to go down every shot in practice. So we have, as the goalies are getting older, we have a hip epidemic. Mm-hmm. FAIs, labrums. We have lots of issues with older goalies because of all the external rotations. So if you do a little math, right? So in a typical 80-minute practice, let's say at a higher level, there'll be 125 butterflies done in practice. Okay, so let's say it's a junior team. Okay, 4 days a week. That's 500 butterflies during practice. That's just butterflies. I'm not talking about RVHs or anything else, just butterflies in practice. That's the average. Okay. So now you go and you got 500 a week. You got 2,000 a month. 8 months of it, of a junior season. Oh my God. Think about that. No wonder we've got overuse. So I have a thing, I get on my soapbox about the 10-20 rule. First 10 shots of a shooting drill, the goalie's just getting in position, using hands, stick, tracking pucks. And then after the first 10 shots, okay, I got the drill. I got it all down. Boom, work, footwork. And they're trying to stop pucks. And they're using their hands. And then the next 10 shots, let's go. Okay. But after you're 20 shots into a drill, you're not going down again. Because now you're starting to get tired. Now your form starts to slip. And that's where you start getting into issues. Okay. So the other great thing about it is those first 10 shots, I'm not going down. I'm not default dropping, because if you're going down every shot, it's going to get quicker and quicker and quicker that you're dropping. And it's all about being an elite goaltender is all about reading the play and reading the release. So these first 10 shots, you're reading the release, you're reacting to the puck. You're not just dropping, going to take a lot of the net just because of net coverage and then reacting from there. You're actually looking to see where that puck's going. And if that puck's going left, you're putting that weight on that right skate and you're moving, shifting to the left. So all this stuff happens. I'm not just straight dropping and then reaching. So you've got a whole development tool right there to use. The issue is when the coaches and the players see the goalies aren't going down every shot, they think the goalie's not working.
Right.
So now it's up to you, Mike, it's up to you to train your staff and your kids to understand that when you do the first 20 minutes of practice and you're taking 7,000 shots, that goalie's not support. They're working on something.
I love the statistic over the weekend that I saw Dave Starman tweet out about the about the comparison of a youth pitcher pitching, when they have these pitch counts, right?
Yeah.
And what we don't do with our goaltenders. And it's the same idea. Like my son was a catcher in youth baseball. He was the only kid that would play catcher. So the coaches would have him play catcher the whole game. I'm like, well, he's throwing more pitches back to the mound than any pitcher you have. You've had 4 pitchers and 1 catcher, and he's throwing back, except the dingers that are going out of the park. Yeah. He's throwing back every ball. So when you talk about like our responsibility as coaches, I think that is a huge piece of it, about allowing the goaltenders not only to know that, but to respect the fact that they have to maybe play a different way and have a different thought process, and us design drills that allow them to do that.
Right.
So that we can eliminate and mitigate the amount of time we're asking them to do something that in essence is unnatural over time.
And this is a little bit and may not apply to all youth teams. Do you guys have two goalies on your teams?
This is the first time my son doesn't have a goaltending partner, but they are looking for one.
Well, that's
so
that's the other part of my question, and so I'll let you end on this. But go ahead. But I have another question about that.
All right. So here's we've adapted at BU for this, and Maria Mountain, expert in off-ice training for goalie development. She's the one that really got me going with this. But if you look at how goalies practice, it doesn't make any sense. So in a game, you get some action down at your end, maybe a flurry of shots, whatever, and then it goes down to the other end, and it goes back and forth and back and forth. But what do? We stick a goalie in net, and we go 2-3 minutes, shot. So you're performing with a high heart rate, right? So your heart rate's up there. You don't have any breaks. But in a game, you're up and you're down. And so what happens is naturally – all those shooting drills you're starting off practice, what does a goalie play at 100%? No chance. If a goalie's practicing at 100%, they can't make it through a drill.
Right.
If they're going down, falling, they're doing all that stuff. So what we've instituted at BU is what we call game mode. So when we're at practice doing the shooting drills, we have one goalie in net for 4 to 6 shots. That's it.
Wow.
And then we rotate. So now you got 2 goalies at one end, and they're going back and forth, 6 shots, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's like a game. Right. Up, down. Now it's game mode because they play every shot like it's a game shot. They follow every rebound like someone's going to shoot the rebound, whether someone's there or not. So they go. It's work. They go through. Now the other thing is, I've never coached so much in my life. So now Chewy's in net. Max is beside him. Chewy takes 6 shots. He comes out. Max goes in. Hey, Chewy, that shot over the glove, you're like way too deep, dude. Oh, yeah, you're right. I didn't. Okay. Now, picture this in normal practice mode. Goalies are in there, the whole drill, whatever. Hey, Chewy, remember 27 shots ago when you got a shot over the glove?
Right.
It doesn't work, right?
Or you're yelling at them in the drill.
Yeah, they can't hear you.
Yeah. They're like, what are you doing?
And so therefore, like now, they go in, take their 40s. I've got something to say. Every time they come, I'm constantly coaching during game mode. It's the greatest thing for me because practice flies by. I'm not sitting there watching a guy get 42 shots in a row and then he's exhausted. And then I go tap him on the butt as he goes to get water. Like, what am I doing here? So now I'm constantly, so they're getting feedback and they're in and out and they're practicing at the right level. So when we had Drew Comesso, who's was second round draft pick, Chicago, and plays for Rockford right now, like the way I told him is we have to practice at a higher level. You can't practice at the pace of the level you're playing at. You want to play at a high level, let's play at a higher pace. Let's push ourselves spot to spot. If you're playing at the level of you're not getting better, you got to push yourself. And so if you have two goalies on a team, you can do some drills where the goalies are down at one end, going back and forth in game mode. And now they're practicing with a higher intensity and they're getting their rest in between. And that's the way they play a game. And I'm going to tell you this because when I use the word intensity, I think intensity is huge for a goaltender. To be able to play with intensity. And I think that intensity is what makes teams. So I had to go, I have a bridge academy here. I got 16 kids that come and they train here at the pad in Boston, outside of Boston. And they're here all day and they do online. It's a 1-year program. And there was this goalie I had and it was the most sought after goalie I've ever had. And I was like, really good goalie. So went to a game and I knew within 2 minutes why every coach, all the prep school coaches wanted this goalie. Game was about to start, tap the post, glove to the post, step out to the top of the crease. And I'm like, whoa, play comes in the zone, talking, post, out. There was the I word, the intensity word. And I'm saying, yeah, if I'm a coach, that's the goalie I want too. It doesn't mean it's frantic. It doesn't mean it's out of control. It doesn't mean it's over the top, but it's doing things with a purpose, being definitive, going to my post definitively, stepping out definitively, up, down definitively, calling out commands, showing confidence. There's that focus intensity level. And I think that's the difference between goalies when they go to a tryout. Now you go to a tryout and you got one goalie who's dialed and another goalie that's maybe not. You can feel the intensity from the goalie that's dialed in and maybe not as skilled, but I want that kid to play for me. So I think that we have to really focus as goalie parents and coaches to bring out that intensity, because without that intensity, maybe they don't make that team. Yeah, maybe that scout that comes to see them doesn't leave there going, I want that goalie, because they didn't feel that intensity. Intensity goes a long way.
So in that thought process, and you mentioned it earlier about Joey never being like the only goalie on a team. How important is it? Because I personally think it's important, but what are your thoughts on sharing the net and having two goaltenders? And ideally, if you could get them with like close to equal ability, like both being passionate, both being sound goaltenders, both being, good competitors. Maybe talk a little bit about to the parents, how maybe it's not important, but I think it's important, like what the dynamics is between a team that has one goalie and a team that has two goalies, and how that kind of works for their own development.
All right. So I'm at the Winter Classic. Who's sitting beside me? Joey's goalie partner from Mites and Squirts and people, right? That tells you that relationship. They're best friends today, and they were goalie partners growing up through the youth the system. So here's the thing that I want to be really clear. Like, I love the two goalie thing. I think there's great value of, if you're the only goalie, you get all the reps, you get all the games. But so there's two completely different. It's apples and oranges. But there's benefits to both. So it's not one way or the other, but my kids always had a goalie partner. All right. And the thing is that I want to be very clear about is they shouldn't have a goalie partner if they're not at the same level. A team carries two goalies if they have two goalies that are at that level. If they don't, they shouldn't be there. And I think that's where, we have to play both goalies. Well, it shouldn't be they should be at the same, they should be able to play in that league. And I think if you try to force it and you have a goalie just because they want to be on the A team and not the B team, but they're not an A player, they shouldn't be playing. Hey, go with one goalie at the A level. But if you have two A's, take two A's. Don't not take two A's because you only want to have one goalie for the team. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. And I was thinking, yeah, and that's perfect sense actually, because you know, it's just a matter of then you're bringing like even the practice level down and everything's down. Like even, you know, the competition's not there. There is no, what I'm saying is when you have an opportunity to feed off each other, and there's that pressure of like, oh my God, if I don't perform, and maybe this isn't an 8 and 9 years old, maybe this is a 14 and 15, you know, and like I've got to compete.
But 8 and 9's fine. You know, they're splitting the game. They're starting games, they're closing games, they're not backups, they're closers. Like, so for me, I think it's great. And look, it's goalie world and it's goalie nation, and we play a different sport, different psychological demands. Like, it's great to have someone that's living your, you know, in your world. You're not on an island every day for 8 months. But I will say this one too, and people won't agree with me on this one wholeheartedly, but I had a thing with my kids growing up when they were trying out for teams and whatever they were going to do. I said to the coaches, I said, if my son goes to a hockey game, he's playing. This is just me. I think it's ridiculous that a 10-year-old goes to a sporting event and a 12-year-old goes to a sporting event and doesn't play. I think it's the stupidest thing, like just for me. And people will argue it's better for goalies to play the whole game and they should take their turns. And like, I understand, and I could okay, what's better developmentally, goalies, whatever, like let's have that talk and that's fine. But irregardless, I don't give a rat's ass, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but Brian, these are the same people that won't dispute the fact that their kids sat for 40 minutes in practice not seeing a shot. So I'm like, you know, like, okay, well, yeah, you're telling me that's your argument, but then I watched your team practice and your kid's not even taking shots. Like, so what do so what philosophy are you going with here?
So like for me, if a youth athlete at any sport goes to a sporting event and doesn't play, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's literally child abuse. Literally telling a kid, you're going to go, those 17 kids are going to play in this game, but you're not. Think about it. It makes no sense. And so Joey, all the way through, up until obviously you get to prep school and then you earn your spots or whatever. But all you do, and from a coaching standpoint, if you want to go and get in this competitive, I love this one. I love, hey, Lee, here's the way my team's going to work this year. Both goalies are going to play. They're going to play 40%. Everybody gets 40%. One goalie gets 40%. The other gets 40%. I get 20%, maybe tournaments, maybe playoffs. Like there's going to be, so now you can create, and different ages, whatever, but now you can create a little bit. But now the kids are going to play. But now when you get to a playoff game or you get to a tournament and you decide, guess what? This guy's hot. This guy's playing. Let's go with it. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I can go with that. As you get a little bit older, you want to create that competition that you talked about. Now you can do a little 40-40-20.
Yeah. No, that competitiveness is everything.
But for me, I always said to the coach, so like I would go to you, Lee. I'd say, hey, Lee, here's the deal. And if you say, it happened to me twice. I don't agree. I think the goalie should play full games. I'm like, well, that's fine. He'll go play somewhere else. But, let me ask you this. I go, does your son play on the team? Yeah. Okay. I said, how about this one? We'll make an agreement. Lee, you play your son every other game, and then you can play my son every other game. Let's do that. And then the coach looks at you and goes, no, you're out of your mind. I'm not driving. I'm not leaving North Andover driving an hour and 10 minutes to Foxborough, and my kid's not going to play.
Right. They need that perspective.
Well, that's what you're asking goalie parents to do.
Well,
Give up a half day. Give your kid loses a half day, and you don't even you watch other kids play sports. Doesn't make like that's just me.
And Brian, like to echo what you said earlier, one of the things that we've done, I think, successfully with my kid is that when he's not in net, he's out playing defense.
Awesome.
So he's always
you can do that. Yeah. Probably not at the highest level.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm talking pre-high school,
you can
right?
do that.
So
no, and I meant like let's say 10U EHF. That's hard to do if the goalie isn't good enough to it probably wouldn't work. But I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, again, we've encouraged
in a town or a lower level. It's perfect.
Yeah. So what we do with him is that last year on his club team, he when he wasn't in net, he played D, and then he played D exclusively, only D, I should say, for his school team, just like you were saying.
Yeah.
And he loves both positions, which is really wonderful. He always leans towards goaltending, but he takes a lot of pride in playing D and getting to a high level with that. So what's cool is it's almost like playing two different sports, like you said. We always talk about multi-sports athletes, and he is. Don't get me wrong, but
it's two different sports,
two different sides of the game that he's playing. So I think that's at the younger levels. Excuse me, that's one solution. I think too, and I want to lead this into a question. I can't believe how quickly this episode's going. Is I want to talk to you about communication, because we always talk about in the show 10 out of 10 problems involve poor communication in some form. I think it starts the first day, right? When you make a team, a coach should be speaking to a goaltender, talking to the goaltender, and throughout the season, regularly talking to the goaltender about lots of different things. Now, I don't want to assume those things. I want to ask you what types of communication should be going on between a coach and a goaltender and a goaltender's family in some cases from the start of the season through the season, because just go out there and stop the puck is not communication. And I think that I appreciate when again, I coach too, but I appreciate when the head coaches come to me and say, hey, what does Logan want to work on? What does Logan need to work on? How is he feeling about practices? How can we get him more involved? I don't find that these conversations take place that often, right? So what is your stance, obviously, on communication from coaches to goalies? I'm not talking goaltending coaches. I'm talking coaches, right? Like just standard coaches. And what can we do better?
Yeah. So first off, you're too late. Start of the season's too late.
There you go. Yeah.
So okay, this is what I tell parents all the time. It's not a contract, it's not legal or whatever. So my son's going to play for Mike's team. Mike says, here, we want your son to play for us. Here's the agreement, so on and so forth. And I say, awesome. All right, Mike, how are you going to work the goalies? Are they rotating? Are they playing full games? Is it play to win? Is it 50-50? Well, what's it going to be? All right, we go to tournaments. How are we going to work things at tournaments? How are things going to work at playoffs? All right, what's going on at practice? Is there someone there at practice? Is there one of the coaches that is not the goalie coach necessarily, but I say you should have someone on your staff, one of the coaches should be the coach responsible for the goalies, okay? It's not the head coach. It's just one of the assistants. Right. They're not a goalie coach, but they're responsible. So they're the ones that are saying, hey, we're going to go power play down here. Let's go down here. Let's do skating drills because we're about to go demonstrate something there let's do. So anyways, so that conversation all takes place right at the time where you're signing the agreement to play. And then what I tell parents do, then you take that conversation, you put it in an email. Hey, Mike, great conversation of the day. Johnny's excited to play for you. It's awesome. We're going with the 40-40-20. It's nice you're going to have a goalie coach every second week at a practice. It's, you know what I mean? Like whatever it is, right. You spell it out and it's done. And you send it off and now you have a copy. That's because great. This conversation can happen at the New England Sports Center after your kid just didn't play the semifinal and grandma came and grandpa came and the sister and brother came and everybody's there to see Johnny play in the tournament. And right. Now the coach plays the other kid and then dad's waiting for the coach in the parking lot. Like that conversation can't happen at that point. So all that communication that you talked about, what to expect, what's going to go on, that's got to take place when deciding on the team and committing to that year, not after that.
And Brian, the best organizations also do that proactively to their families, right? I mean, the best organization, that I've seen, like they say, like it's not just we have a goalie coach Okay, what the hell does that mean?
I
And does the goalie coach even talk to the head coach? Like I know in my experience in a lot of organizations I've been working with, like they have goalie coaches, but there's no interaction between the goalie coach and the head coach. The goalie coach just shows up at the practice and says, "Hey, I'm the goalie coach today." Like, well,
Right.
okay, go ahead, take them when you need them, I guess. And then I think it's like this whole, but I think laying that out there and articulating that for both parties is so strong for advocating for your kid, but also an organization advocating for goalies. You want to come play for me? This is why you want to play for me. I'm giving you this,
because we provide this. Absolutely.
We provide this. We want to enhance your goaltending experience, knowing and just admitting the fact that it is a different position. It's a whole different philosophy of how we're going to work it, because I can't work you in when I'm screaming at the kids for 25 minutes on the power play breakout and the goaltender sits in the middle of the breakout, really not doing anything. I can't justify that, right? But in this way, I'm like, no, during these times, like I've got to the point where I'll even bring in, if I know I'm having a specific week of practices where I'm working on certain things that don't have a lot of goaltending interaction, I'll bring a goaltender in from another team just for extra ice and let my other two goaltenders work with the goalie coach alone. Where they're not even part of the team. Like, I'm like, this is your chance to do this. I just need somebody in the net to have a puck hit him every now and then. Right. You know what I mean? So I think that's like to me, and that kid loves it because like, oh, I'm getting to play on the, I got called up, or, I got pulled, I get extra ice time. I'm getting more. So you got to think outside of our normal traditional, like, okay, you show up, like to your point, Brian, you show up, you get dressed, you go on, you save some pucks, you get undressed, you go home. And there's no correspondence. And then the parents, to your point, you can't bring that up in January 18th in a tournament. And I think it's just like that's why, listen, that's why we're here right now, having this conversation.
And I love it. I love that you guys care so much about it.
We do. We generally do. And, it's funny. We started doing this prior to my son becoming a goaltender, and it just happened to fall in my lap a little bit of all the great advice that we get for my family and my kid. And it really is a wonderful experience in a lot of different ways outside the obvious. Brian, listen, I got a page full of notes here. I mean, we could keep going. One thing I got to ask about, because we're running out of time, is Sense Arena and the goaltending side of it. I'll start this question with this. I've never played goalie except in that VR headset. And as limiting as that is compared to the real game, man, did that give me a completely different perspective on the game. Aside from it being a little bit of a game and having it fun, just to have virtual shots taken on me has really opened my eyes to goaltending, right? And again, I want to reiterate, I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm not saying that VR experience is the same as the on ice experience. Obviously, you're not dropping a butterfly in the VR experience, but it was I was amazed at how immersive it was and what it has done for me as a coach and a player. So I want to ask you, you've been involved with this. Again, you're a director over there. Again, I've seen your son use it, right? Like, tell me about Sense Arena and kind of from a goaltending standpoint, maybe how this is innovating or changing. Because when I see NHL goaltenders using this to warm up, that says something, right? This is not just a little Nintendo thing anymore, right? This is something that's becoming a real training tool. I've also noticed they're not in there for an hour, right? They're in there for a really short amount of time. And it kind of warms up the senses. So talk to me about Sense Arena a little bit from a goaltending standpoint.
Well, I'll go back a little bit how you led that in your experience with it. And it makes me think of Elvis Merzlikins when he got his. So he goes, puts it on. He's down in the basement. And like within 2 minutes, he puts it down. He goes to get his wife. And he puts his wife in the headset. Honey, this is what I do. And she's like, oh my God, like now she understands what it's like and how fast. Now she understands the experience. It gave her a whole new outlook in terms of what his job is. It is, I'll go, obviously my son is a really good example of a typical user. So I'm involved, I had a lot to do with the development of the drills and all this kind of stuff. And so he got his headset and he got Sense Arena and he tried it and he didn't put it on for 2 years. And it was hard for me because I'm there helping and I'm part of it and my son isn't using it. And then one day he's playing. They don't have a morning skate. This is pro. Doesn't have a morning skate. So he wanted a morning skate. So he's like, you know what? I'll throw that VR thing on and see how that is. So he went 15, 20 minutes of doing the VR. What happens that night? Gets a shutout.
That's how you get him. That's how you get him to do it.
Rest is history. And then now every practice, go in. So you think about it, right? If you use it before practice, your eyes, you're starting to get in tune.
Yeah.
You're starting to get going. And all the goalies will tell us they have much better practices when they do the VR before they go on the ice for practice.
Okay? I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that just from using it myself.
Well, it also backs up the fact that what you talked about earlier about, when you have when you're in practice and you could get that goalie doing like 12, 15 minutes of skating drills every practice over 3 practices a week and how that adds up. Like this is your opportunity. And we use Sense Arena at the schools I work with. Every youth hockey organization I work with at least gets 2 headsets and some players use it, some players don't, which is fine. But the players that do are getting so much ROI on the investment of the tool that they don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to get dressed. They don't have to, really find anywhere bigger than a small room or an area, right? Even in the rink.
6 by 6,
and it just gets the reps in. And because I thought it was a gimmick too, and I'm like, well, what how many different things can you do?
Hey, I did too until I put it on.
Right.
They actually came to see me in this office and did a presentation and showed it to me on a computer, and I was like, and then a few months later, they say, hey, could you come and whatever? And this is when it was the Vive. This is before, the headsets, like standalone. It was a $10,000. Just so you know, like 5 years ago, it was $10,000 to get the hardware to do sensory. But anyways,
right.
Now it's a few $100. But the minute I put that on, I said, this is incredible. Your drills suck. I want to be a part of this.
Right. Let me help you. Let me help you. I like this so much. Exactly. I want to help you. And
exactly. And Mike, the most important thing here is all those reps have no wear and tear on them.
Right.
No going up and down. Now think about this too. If you're not going up and down, you're reading the release. You're reading the play. You're reading the release. You're not defaulting into anything. And now that may help you hold your edges, just that extra split second. And that's going to make all the difference in the world.
So I know this is our goaltending section, but on the forward side and on the player side, I experienced the same thing, having players that, so with a player, there's a tendency to pass and come up. And what happens is with the Sense Arena, it doesn't allow you're not in skates, you don't have to be in anything, but it doesn't allow you to have that. It forces you to be in the sensation of being in a position where you can get and receive passes and start to create that muscle memory, so that I'm not doing this instinctive come up, I'm coming at. And that really changes a player. And when you can do that, especially with these young players, over and over, like just catch and release, not catching, dangle, stick handle, brush, do all this other stuff. This is brushing off. And we're seeing it every day. Like you see it in the NHL and how the microcosm of why teams get where they get. It's the nuance of, did you pull the puck across the blue line and rip it? Or did you pull across the blue line and brush, and then it's gone, the play's over? And with young players outside of goaltending, and again, I know because I remember Sense Arena when it first came out, it was goaltending. That's all it was. It was like, this is made for goaltending. It was like, well, you can't skate around. But the fact is, your brain doesn't know you're not skating around. Your brain thinks, I'm just looking and reading and reacting and playing. And that's going to translate to on ice. And I know every goaltender, I think I have 7 goaltenders that I personally work with in some capacity that all have Sense Arena. And they all do it in a place of their own convenience, at their own time, at their own reps, and get in there whenever they want. Like if they feel like, hey, today's a day, I want to put in a good 15, 20 minutes, they can do it. And it literally is putting a hat on.
This is the greatest line from Joey. He looks at me one day and goes, I don't understand how every goalie doesn't have Sense Arena.
Right.
And this is the guy that wouldn't use it because it was gimmicky. What he wouldn't use it, and now he's like, I don't understand how someone doesn't have it.
Right, and especially for the play for when, I mean, like not to get too salesy, but the fact is you could get a Sensorina setup for less than a goalie stick right now. So I mean, you're basically, so like to me as a youth hockey parent, I'm like, holy crap! Like I have to get you 2 goalie sticks for September, and they're going to cost me almost $700. Well, why don't I just get this?
Crazy. I say the same thing about our Stop It Goaltending U app. It's like $9.99, and so our typical client, our typical goalie at Stop It Goaltending, spends about $2,000 to $2,500 a year. Okay, for training for us.
Right.
The app that has all the resources and all the knowledge and all their drills and the explanation of the drills. Like I'm leaving here, I'm going to Merrimack. We're filming all of our summer drills, and they go on the app, so you can then look at the drill before, hear the explanation, then go on the ice. And then that's another hit now. Now you've got the coach coaching it. You already know what's coming, so you know the drill, you know how it's going to go. Now you get there, you maximum for an extra $9.
Yeah.
Like
I've always
I have the same thing when it comes to the Stop It Goaltending U app as Sensorina's. Like they're no brainers when you think about the money that goes into everything else. That's what makes it hard.
Well, and your time.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, in Massachusetts, maybe you can get to a rink in 25 minutes. In a lot of places, you can't get to a rink for an hour and a half. And, it's like, okay, well, listen, after school, like I just look at it the way, like after school, you know how great basketball players get great? After school, they go and they shoot hoops for 15, 20 minutes. Like this is shooting hoops. Like this is like, to me, it's like one of those things where, well, why, like I get upset in my neighborhood. I'm like, everybody has a goddamn basketball hoop. How come nobody, I got to put I'm going to throw a net in every driveway. I just want to see kids go out and shoot. And this gives you an
opportunity. This is what I'll say. This is what I've been saying for years, that the biggest plight of today's youth is that they have unlimited access to information that we didn't have. Right. And it's, I don't like to say it to them, but it's like, it's not that they're too lazy to use it. It's, they don't see it for what it's worth. And I'm going to say this one more time on Sensorina. Brian, when I went in there, at first it was jarring. Just, wow, okay, I've never seen this before. And then, and this is just through my own process of being a hockey player and a professional in the workplace, I started to critique myself in a good way of like, oh, okay, I understand now I have to do this or I have to do that. And when you start doing the drills with the real players, which is a totally amazing experience. I mean, I'm not saying I got great at goaltending or anything like that, but it's like, man, I'm starting to learn. I'm starting to understand this position. And again, it goes with the players as well, the skater side of it. But as a tool to just understand the position, it was worth the money to me. Wow. Right. And that alone, like, so look, it's a little hard to say, hey, everyone should go buy this and go play goalie. That's every skater in the world. But just trying this will give you a completely different perspective on the game. And it has changed how I view the game.
Yeah. Well, you shouldn't be allowed to yell at your kid unless you get into the system. And then he can go crazy.
Well, I think Brian also had another business model. We need to make a VR game of just jobs that people do. Like, honey, come down, check out my construction job. Get in the VR headset. Let's build a building together. Or adversely, hey, husband, come here. Come fix this guy. I'm a nurse. I want you to get first to this. We could have a whole thing there.
But you laugh, but that's the key. Like when you learn how to weld, you learn how to weld in a VR headset. You don't learn how to weld in an expensive welding machine. Like when you learn how to do operations, people are operating in a VR headset. They're operating in a virtual reality setting. So the tools there, the opportunities there. I look at it from a coaching perspective that it gets you reps that you don't get anywhere else or on your own time, on your own dime. And really, if I'm a kid, they could it's just there. It's kind of sitting in the corner. Yeah. You just put it on when you want. Mom and dad don't have to yell at you. No coaches are yelling at you.
Yeah. Kids want to do it.
Yeah, that's right. And Brian, then, if they venture into Fortnite, it is what it is.
Brian, listen, we could keep talking. I think we're going to have you back for a part 2 at some point. This time went really quick, but I want to thank you for just coming on today. You've really dropped a lot of gold. I mean, I can't wait to share the mini clips from this episode because it's really going to help a lot of people. And again, I think we accomplished the goal of this show. While it's about goaltenders, it is not just for goaltenders, right? You've given immense perspective today across the board for coaches, for players, for goalies, and parents which is the goal. So I want to thank you for that and for coming on today.
Thank you. Thanks for doing what you guys do too. It's much appreciated. I need it.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Our Kids Play Goalie. For Mike Bonelli and Brian Daccord, I'm Lee Elias. Remember, you can catch all of the Our Kids Play Goalie episodes and the Our Kids Play Hockey episodes at ourkidsplayhockey.com. That's going to do it for today. Skate on. Have a wonderful time. We'll see you next time on Our Kids Play Goalie. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.